We know you're there, and you're all mute, so you cannot talk right now. But if you have questions, put them as you want into the Q&A function of this Zoom session, and we will come back to the questions later. The practical details, so you are mute, we cannot see you, so that makes us a bit nervous actually. And first of all, I'd like to welcome you to the colleagues abroad. We have 6 of them today, and I'm really looking forward to introduce you to them. So this afternoon, it's all about the PR and influencer marketing. On daily basis, I see my colleagues in Zoom calls, in video calls right now. They have a lot of experience and knowledge they shared with me today and with me in the last months we had. But today they will share it with you. So first of all, a very warm welcome. I'd like to start with Natalie. Natalie is our PR manager in Germany. So let's go to Cologne right now. Natalie, to welcome you, can you describe the media landscape in Germany for us, please?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, hi from Germany, from Cologne, home office, of course. So yeah, I try to describe the German media landscape shortly in 3 words. So it's big, it's diverse, and it's regional. So let me tell you why is it big. Germany is the 5th biggest media landscape in the world. It's right after China, India, Japan, and the US. So in total, there are more than 2,000 magazines, regional and national newspapers. We have more than 380 radio broadcasters, and we have a dual TV system of public service media and commercial broadcasters. And they both reach more than 37, not 73 million households each, but still big numbers, right? Yeah, so why is it diverse? Let's have a look at the print media maybe. So as I said, we have regional and national newspapers that offer relevant information about politics, economy, and they also inspire readers in their travel sections. But besides that, we have a lot of professional journals and magazines that specialize on a huge amount of topics. We have food, we have cars, hotels, restaurants, traveling, science, and so on. And we even have magazines about Christmas trees. Maybe you can buy one before Christmas. So yeah, this diversity gives us the opportunity to reach the right audience and the right target group. And we really have to make use of this, I think. And last but not least, why is it regional? Well, I think the most important thing about the German media is that it is regional. People like to read, listen, and watch local news so that they know what is happening in their part of town, for example. But of course, there's also a wide range of national papers and TV channels that offer more background information and investigative journalism. And well, I personally like the mix of the regional and national media, because we can spread our news from the Netherlands in 2 completely different ways. So we can share them in a national quality paper like Süddeutsche Zeitung. I think the most people know it. And then we could reach a big audience, but we could also share it through regional media, like a daily newspaper, for example. Here in North Westphalia, we have the NZZ. And with that, we can reach people from a specific area. Well, so to put it into one sentence, Janneke, I think the German media landscape is big, diverse, and regional, as I said. And that gives us the opportunity to reach big audiences, but also tiny groups of people in a specific area and with specific needs and interests. And yeah, that provides a big potential for press activities, I think.
I can imagine. Thanks for this, Natalie. Let's go to our second market, Belgium. In Brussels, there's Esther Rijke. Esther, welcome. Although we are both neighboring countries, Belgium, Germany, I think you don't recognize a lot from what Natalie is saying, right? There's a huge difference between your two markets.
No, that's true. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. No, that's true. Instead of regional, we very often have national coverage, in fact. And the biggest difference is also that Belgium, in comparison with Germany, has a very small media landscape. We work with 10 to 15 titles. To promote the Netherlands in Belgium, we mostly concentrate on Flanders. Also, the number of the influencers and bloggers is limited, and the amount of followers is not as big as in the Netherlands. And for that reason, Dutch partners are sometimes also hesitant to welcome Belgian bloggers. When journalists and influencers travel, they prefer to stay in a limited area. I should say, give them a mix of activities in one area and don't let them drive too much. They also prefer to discover everything during a walk or a cycle tour, and don't forget to include a stop so they can drink a good coffee with Dutch apple tart. If we look at Belgian publishing companies like DPG and Media House, they now control several Dutch media. Due to this fact, Dutch travel articles about the Netherlands are sometimes published in Belgian newspapers. For example, a Dutch travel article in NRC is published a few weeks later in the Standaard. This is a positive outcome. The Netherlands will receive more attention in the Belgian media, and not only in the field of tourism. Flanders is receiving so more attention in the Netherlands due to this collaboration. And as a result, the knowledge about the Netherlands in Flanders is increasing. So this makes it easier to send the press to hidden gems or quiet places, which will contribute again to our 2030 perspective. And yes, when you want to offer a press trip to the Netherlands, don't make them longer than 2 to 3 days and send them individually. They don't like to travel in group because they will all have the same story to tell. If you prefer to work with the cultural press, it's just the opposite. They like to go to vernissages and don't want to miss the scoop. So that's be done in a group. And I think, Janneke, these were the differences with other markets.
Can imagine. Thanks, Esther. We'll come back to you soon or later. Simone, let's go to the UK. You're based in London. Welcome today. How would you describe your relationship with media in your country?
I would say that we have a really brilliant relationship with our media. It's diverse, but also it's like a sort of family. Once you get to know people, they're very loyal. I've worked for NBTC for 7 years now, but I've been in PR for over 20 years. So some of the journalists I've worked with have stayed with me over the years, and they're a mix of arts journalists and leisure journalists. And what they love is that kind of close bond that they have when they come over to the Netherlands. They always receive a warm welcome and a great itinerary, and that's what they really appreciate, the quality. They know they're going to have a really nice time. So that's a really strong relationship that we have. And of course, we haven't been able to see each other in person this year. We love to do big press events in London, and I'm always out and about meeting journalists and bloggers for coffee. So that's something I'm really looking forward to in 2021.
Thanks. Marin, you're based in France and are fresh and new PR manager, actually. You started on January 1st of this year. Do you recognize what Simone is saying? Oh, unmute yourself, please.
Bonjour. Yes, a little bit, but France is a little bit different as well than Anglo-Saxon countries. It means that it really takes even more time to build relationships and to gain confidence of journalists, for example. But the other hand, the advantage of working for a national tourist board is that the French really see us as an independent and official organization with no commercial target and an objective way of working, for example. And the other advantage that we have, for example, when we have press trips or when we assist helping them during the preparation of articles, we build strong and privileged relationships with them. So that's also a big plus for us. And thanks to these relationships, there's a more open discussion during the preparation of press programs. It's more easier for us to influence or to convince them to go to another place than, for example, Amsterdam. And yeah, of course, even though a lot of French journalists nowadays speak English, they appreciate the fact there's a French person or a Dutch person speaking French with them, with a knowledge of the market, the Netherlands, of course, and having a network in the Netherlands itself, but also, on the other hand, has the feeling of the French market and knows what the readership of the medium where they're working for is looking for. And then, of course, we also have the French influencers, and that's a totally a different way of working. It's more easygoing, but it means as well that you have to prepare a lot of things beforehand. And I mean, that you have to precise exactly what you expect from them. So a detailed briefing is key. And they are less culture focused, but it's fantastic to show off the beaten track destinations in the Netherlands, to spread tourism everywhere in the Netherlands, and that's a great way of working with influencers.
Okay, let's go to the other side of the world. Brianna, welcome. Good morning to you. Thanks for being so early in this call today. Well, you're getting used to it actually, because every day is an early call day. Life. Yeah, so sorry for you. Can you explain, Brianna, to what extent does your work differs from the others in Europe, do you think?
Yes, thank you, Yannicka. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I'm the PR manager here in New York, but I'm actually covering all of North America with a large focus on the USA. And I've been with NBTC for 9 years now. So the biggest difference with my work than my European colleagues is, it's probably obvious, but it's the distance. So we're a long haul market naturally, and the American media and travelers in general are visiting for an extended period of time. Most of our press trips are about 5 to 6 days and sometimes longer. And this means that Americans aren't visiting for just one thing like a museum exhibition, but rather combining many interests and topics on one trip. But of course, travel hasn't been possible at all from the US to Europe since March. And actually, it seems like America probably won't be off the EU travel ban list for some time now. So we've completely pivoted our activities to virtual only with the message of traveling, hopefully in sometime in 2021. The goal is really the summer, but with the vaccine just getting out, we'll kind of monitor the situation and see how it goes. And with that, we're continuously tracking COVID here in the US as part of our daily work, because it's more complicated here than it probably is in other countries. And that's mostly due to our political landscape. Each state operates differently, and we're monitoring the rules per state and the results per COVID. So for example, what's possible for us here in New York isn't possible for people in California, and what Floridians can do, Texans can't do. So it takes a lot of time to monitor the restrictions per state and actually the sentiment for travel among those residents.
I can imagine. Thanks for this insight already, Brianna. And let's go to our last colleague abroad, Congressen. Welcome. You're based in Beijing. Good evening for you. Thanks for showing up in this Zoom call. And I think we as European citizens can hardly imagine what the media reach in China is. Can you explain something about this media reach, and how does the Chinese media difference from the media we know?
Yes, thank you, Yannicka. Here's Chongren from China market, and I'm the PR manager in Chinese office for more than 2 years. And I'd like to describe the questions from 2 points. The first is the limited internet. As we know, the Chinese have a very unique internet environment. We don't have the famous social media like Twitter, Facebook in China, but we have some unique social media I will talk about later. And the second point is the multiple distribution channels. And in the first, as the internet developing fast in the past 20 years in China, there are a lot of online media and social media appeared in Chinese market. Meanwhile, they have already gained more market share currently. We can see a lot of famous and big online media in our daily life, such as Tencent Group, Tencent News, Xinlang Weibo, WeChat is a globally very famous app, and a famous Chinese short video platform, TikTok. But online media has become more and more important in Chinese media market, even in Chinese people daily life. And the second, I'd like to share a keyword in Chinese media market. It's called MCN, which means multiple channel network. Currently, if a media brand not only have a magazine publication or printed newspapers, but also they have multiple distribution channels, such as the National Graphic Chinese version, the printed magazine as the center, then they extend into official Weibo, WeChat subscription account, and e-magazine and other online platforms. They have a lot of distribution channels to gain more audience and to gain more marketing exposures. And we can find the big difference between Netherlands or even the European media and the Chinese. What is in China, if a media wants to gain more market exposures, they need to have several channels to communicate with their audience and leverage the internet power, maximize. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Completely different from us. During the COVID period, you can imagine the daily work of our colleagues was really changing from last year. Actually, it affects the whole world and our branch particularly. And Simone, if I'm correct, you saw the first changes already in springtime when Lonely Planet magazine closed, right? Can you explain a bit more what was the effect of closing such a huge title, and in what way it will affect the media all over the world?
Well, yeah, it was quite a shock when Lonely Planet magazine announced that they were closing permanently and wouldn't be coming back, because obviously it's a really well-respected name and brand, but thankfully they're still operating online. But then shortly afterwards, the Sunday Times travel magazine, which is one of our leading glossies, also decided to cease publishing. And then sadly, we went on to hear that many jobs were axed at The Guardian, and later that all of the Saturday supplements, which includes the travel section, were also axed. We've also seen job losses across the BBC News as well, and regional radio and television channels. So it's been quite a big cut in our media landscape, which obviously is devastating because it lessens the sort of variety out there, but also the options for our freelance writers become more and more sort of limited. And what we're hearing from commissioning editors now is that there's quite a large backlog of articles that they want to get out there and they can't. And also, in addition to that, their budgets have been really cut on travel sections. So in the future, this will lead to a lack of opportunity for sort of freelance writers and just generally sort of less commissioning options going into 2021.
Yeah. And Natalie, I think we all agree on the fact that the German journalists are really eager and willing to travel again when the borders to the Netherlands are opening again. What do you see as a main challenge for our country when all these borders will actually reopen?
Yeah, thanks, Annika. That's a good question. Well, as you said, our expectations are that people will want to go to the Netherlands again once the travel restrictions have been lifted and everything will be just normal again. At least we hope so. For example, just last week, we talked to a couple of relevant journalists during an Oud en Nieuw borrel that we organized to reconnect with them. And they all just can't wait to go to the Netherlands again. They were just like, please let us just hop on the train and just go. Nevertheless, we also have to have in mind that the media landscape has changed during this pandemic. For example, some magazines and newspapers cut off their travel sections completely. And a lot of journalists were not allowed to travel at the beginning and also now at the end of this year. And these changes affected mostly freelance journalists, I would say. And when we had to cancel trips, many journalists were very reluctant to have their trips canceled, but there were also some journalists that canceled their trips by themselves, since they were just either concerned about the virus or, as I said, they were just simply not allowed to travel anymore. And I think this might continue in 2021, at least as long as this virus isn't under control. But on the whole, we feel that most journalists are very eager to renew their plans for 2021 So I expect a high demand to update postponed individual press trips that should have taken place this year. And we have to be prepared for a lot of requests as soon as traveling is possible again. And yeah, I just wanted to add a little thing. This summer, luckily, we were allowed to organize some individual press trips. And there was such a good cooperation with the Dutch partners who were making all the press trips as COVID-19 proof as possible. And this will, of course, remain very important in 2021. So, well, some challenges are coming our way, but I also see a lot of potential if we work together.
Thanks. Esther, do you recognize that? Are the Belgians willing to travel again? Oh, yeah.
Yes, certainly. How often do I get these days a mail or a phone call from journalists or bloggers who are asking to travel again to the Netherlands in a safe and professional way, according, of course, to the rules made by the Dutch and Belgian government? Well, after what Prime Minister Rutte said yesterday evening, it will take a while to go abroad and travel again. Beginning 2021, the vaccination strategy in Belgium will start, and it will take at least half a year. So let's be hopeful. However, one thing's for sure, journalists and influencers are so desperate to travel here. They are not homesick, but they are travel sick. To me, that's a positive virus. I call it the travel virus. They want to go back to normal as soon as possible. Some journalists and influencers still want to make the trip, which was cancelled in 2020. Others are looking for some new angles. The concern for the climate and the environment were already an important factor in Belgium. Today, it's even more important due to the whole situation, and that's reflected in their questions and requests. Now they are mainly looking for 2021 for places in nature or outdoors to avoid the crowds. Because who doesn't want to sleep in a pimped cabin or a tiny house? Think of the beach cabins. They are very popular for the Belgian market. Also boutique hotels or a grand hotel in the countryside are a good option. I have to mention that they also want to travel in small cities instead of going to Amsterdam or Rotterdam. They feel more safe. For the cultural press, it's different. They are bored to follow openings of exhibitions online. Once they're allowed again, they just jump on the train and off they go. Overall, for Belgium, it will be a challenge in 2021 to work with journalists and bloggers. They will be asked by other countries and tourist boards as well, but I'm not so afraid. We are an interesting nearby country for Belgium. A campaign like Ode to the Landscape, interesting new cycle tours and other great initiatives will tease the journalists. The difficulty that I expect is that it won't be easy for them what to choose to do in the Netherlands.
Okay, but that's a good sign.
Yeah, I hope so.
And Marin, in France, we're focusing more than we do in other countries on art and culture press. What do you think is the main challenge for them?
Well, the biggest challenge for them now is dealing with this strange situation that museums close, they reopen, they reclose. And so that means as well that exhibitions are postponed or cancelled, and that all happens quite fast. So, and that in combination with also the travel restrictions for some destinations. So you can imagine the hassle it is and the challenges they have to continue the work. For a bimensual magazine, for example, this is almost impossible to adapt to these kind of situations. So what we see now here in our market is that, for example, those magazines, they're now more publishing articles about the life and the work of an artist and more extensive articles of several pages instead of articles about exhibitions. And also during the lockdown, we saw that, some newspapers and also art press, they were writing articles about museums that you can visit from home in a virtual way, in fact. So that's also one of the trends we saw. Yeah, and then of course we also see that the art press is more focusing on the national exhibitions when there's no lockdown, because maybe you don't know, but we were still in lockdown till today. So now the French museums are opening today, the 15th of December. It's a little bit the other way around compared to the Netherlands, I think. But and of course the freelance journalists, they have really a difficult time at the moment because they don't have such amount of work as normally, and it's the same for their income, so they're having hard times at this moment. And we can also see that, for example, culture journalists, they are now working for the newspapers I'm talking about. They're now also assisting other colleagues of other news sections by writing articles for these sections. Well, and then of course we can see that well, this year, not a lot of art journalists traveled to the Netherlands for press trips. In general, the measurements in France due to Corona are much more restrictive compared to the Netherlands. And even in the periods after the lockdown, it had an impact on the travel intentions. And then we also have some newspapers or magazines, they were afraid to send journalists who is taking the responsibility if a journalist is getting ill after a trip like this. So yeah, that's a real difference in the situation. And then, we also saw, even more this time, that press releases having more importance this year. And we see also more press releases on LinkedIn, but didn't really happen before. And then of course we have the digital press events. And we also organize the digital press event for the art press. And normally it's every year in Paris. It's a virtual or a physical event in a venue in Paris. And every year we have about 40 people reacting, subscribing. And then every year also a no-show of 20–30%. And this year it was during the full lockdown here in France. And already during the preparation, we saw people reacting very enthusiastic. And you saw a real involvement of the journalists. And the day itself, the 25th of November, almost everybody was there. The no-show rate was maybe 2%, but it never happens normally. And this experience showed us again that it's important to stay in contact with them during the good and the bad times. It's really reinforcing the relation that we have with them. Yeah, I agree on that. And what do you think is the biggest challenge after this whole COVID period? Well, I think, it's of course depending how it will happen, how fast it will go, the whole process. But I think, that we all together as a destination, we have to work as a solid team to get back the press and also the visitors to the cultural venues we have all over in the Netherlands. And it's really essential for the survival for a lot of them. So I think there will be a big burst of postponed exhibitions, and journalists, I think they will be overloaded with a lot of invitations for openings, press trips. And that means there will be a lot of competition between museums, but also destinations on nation level. So I think that, the most important thing is the preparation. The preparation is key. We now have, maybe the time to prepare press releases, fact sheets, translations, images, and everything. And then when the situation gets better, we just have to adapt the planning and we can communicate for the whole year long. And I think that this planning and the preparation will be an advance on the competition. And we really should, start this as soon as possible, I think. Yeah. Well, another challenge that is maybe also the way how we work. We should do it more in a sustainable way, of course. And now is the moment to change those kind of things, not only for press trips, but also in the general press approach that we have. We have to take our responsibility here as well. Yeah, agree on that. And Brianna, we at NBTC, we use our office in New York a bit as a trend watcher and also a booster. Now you're a couple of months probably behind us. First we had China, then we had Europe, and you're a bit delayed probably. What do you think? How is the US media right now dealing with intercontinental destinations?
Yeah, so right now and for the last 9 months, basically, international destination coverage has been very limited. When we do see coverage internationally, it's not the same way we used to. There's no news and there's really no appeal for Americans to travel abroad. And that's, of course, because we actually can't. The travel media is very much focused right now on what they call close to home destinations, particularly places where Americans can visit by car. And since the US is so large and extensive, this kind of coverage can go a very long way. There's really an endless list of small and large cities in the US that can be covered. Right now, we're maybe approaching what they're calling the peak of the second wave here. So the outlook for international travel coverage is not so positive. I'm seeing a lot of throwback posts. The travel publications are trying their best to stay relevant with seasonal stories, but they are in a difficult place. And each year, the New York Times puts out their 52 places to visit list. I'm sure everybody is very familiar with that. And that really sets a precedent for the year of travel, not only for consumers, but for other media. Media use that list to use for stories for the year of different destinations. And a sign of the times in 2021, the New York Times has changed that listing from places to visit to instead being called places we love. They just don't feel confident yet in 2021 to tell Americans that they can go out and visit these places, especially since so many of the places on the list are international destinations. So I think, unfortunately, that might be very telling for the year to come.
That sounds not really positive for us, actually. What do you see? Have you also opportunities you can share? What do you think are the opportunities for the Netherlands as a destination?
Yes, definitely. I mean, we're certainly in challenging times, but there are definitely opportunities. So even though we can't travel, I've found in the last 9 months, staying in touch with the media, that they really need us just as much as we need them right now. And they're out of work in the traditional way. They're looking to stay connected. They're looking for things to get back to normal, just the way we are. So it's really a two-way street. And I think that really helps us and them in developing a new relationship and brainstorming the best ways to help each other when, you know, life does return to a new normal. It's really important here in the US, at least, that we find unique and interesting ways to connect with the media. Since everyone is pretty much online only, they want more than just the traditional news conference or meeting online. They don't want to just get onto Zoom to just hear a press conference. We've already offered a few virtual events here in the US that have been very successful. And the key for that is that they're actually doing some kind of experience. They're doing some kind of activity at home at their desk. They like to partake in some activity, not only listen to the press conference, but just feel that they're doing something fun. And it's important right now that we're not hard selling them. Oh, write about the Netherlands, write about the Netherlands. It's more just, let's stay connected. Let's keep our relationship going. Like I said, we want to help you just like you want to help us. And I think that kind of mindset for the next, you know, the future, however long that's going to be now, will really be effective for our future relations when things return to normal.
Yeah, I can imagine. Simone, do you recognize this from your market?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I really feel like everyone can't wait to travel when it's safe and possible to do so. Obviously, the media are being responsible and not encouraging people to travel. So it's a lot about dreaming of what they can do, hopefully, in 2021. And I really feel that our journalists and our bloggers have really loved doing our virtual press trips this year, having that connection with us, keeping those relationships maintained. And as Brianna says, partaking in an activity, whether that's cheese tasting or Geneva drinking, they love it. So that's definitely something that I really see as a positive connection happening still in the UK. But in terms of where we are with coverage right now, I guess we have to wait and see. But I feel that our bloggers especially are ready and willing to go as soon as they're able to. They have no restrictions of publishing houses. They have no backlog of articles to get out there. They just want new content, fresh content. So I think that there's lots of opportunities there in 2021. We just have to be ready, willing and able to do it as soon as we can. Yeah.
And Congressen, for you guys in China, life is going pretty much back to normal right now. Can you explain us what did happen in your market when Chinese media were able to travel again?
Yes, I'd like to share good news to you. We completed a PR event today, and we invite more than 50 media to our event to discuss what we did in this year, and what we can cooperate in the next year. We receive a lot of good opportunities with us, and in the next, I will share some changes during the epidemic period in the Chinese market media. Actually, there are too many changes happened in the Chinese media market during the epidemic period. The first, we can see some influencers disappeared in market. Only some top tier influencer still alive. I think too many reasons. The commercial client reduced and outbound travel suspension. And in the past, a lot of influencers focus on outbound travel. So they didn't focus on the domestic travel, so they lost the job. And more competition in the influencer market as well. And some low tier influencers, even second tier influencers cannot make money to support their life. So we can keep all of the top tier influencers for us and reduce our manpowers. We can reach a lot of high quality influencers in future, I think. And the second, the traditional media have already extended their business model from printed publications transfer to digitalized content. And some media companies start to do some event organizing work like a PR agency. Also, the traditional media start to do some e-commerce work based on their large number of audience. And they're selling some product, which is they have already communicated in the magazine or newspapers, such as some souvenir and such as the wine and the cycling and something else. And they normally use the live streamings or WeChat group to selling the product. And the third, till today, the outbound travels information still limited in the market, in the Chinese market. The media market only mainly focus on the domestic market only, like domestic travel in the China and some others, yeah.
Yeah. And now it's quite hard to reach the Netherlands from China. But what do you think will happen when the borders are fully open again?
Yes, today a lot of journalists showed a very positive attitude to us. They really want to travel to the Netherlands again in the 2021, and even to travel independently by themselves or join our press trip. I think if the border can be reopened and the press trip and the media event can be reorganized, it will be so exciting for the Chinese media market. The travel media have already stayed in home nearly 1 year. So they expected to travel to Netherlands again as quick as possible. And there are many changes in the Chinese market, definitely. First, I believe that the media will not to give up the new business models was they developed in the past 10 months, such as live streaming, such as e-commerce, and other activity can help them to make money, to drive business. And the second, as the media have already extended to the e-commerce field, we can have more cooperation opportunities with the medias, such as some attractions in the Netherlands, like Delft Blue and Gouda Cheese. The product selection become to an important part in their daily work, in the media daily work. So they will more care about what product can be drive business for them. And for the Netherlands, for us, we can to link up some attractions like Delft Blue and Gouda Cheese, we can link up to the Chinese media. Even we can not only leverage the media to help us to communicate with audience, but also the Chinese media maybe become selling channels in the futures. Yeah, I think it's positive and very good to see the change in the Chinese market media. Yeah, of course, we can have more cooperation opportunities with Chinese media in the future, in the 2021, yeah.
Looking forward to that, Chongren, thanks.
Yeah.
And well, all this information we shared with you today, we wrote down, or Simone wrote down in a white paper, in different white papers, and you will find them online later. So everyone will be able to read this information. And Simone, thanks for writing it down, what's in our minds and what's in our heads and all this experience. The last question for you, what do you think actually, where do you see the most relevant preparations for the Netherlands to be prepared for the time behind or after Corona?
Oh, that's a big question. I would say keep up to date with all what's the news that's happening in all the markets, like who can travel, when they can travel. Make sure your attraction, your city, your hotel is as COVID proof, but still welcoming to visitors. And, you know, this year we've seen obviously a lot of rise of interest in the outdoors, in cycling, and, you know, just kind of being free and out in the open air. And also, you know, while we've been stuck indoors, we've really loved getting to grips with more and more cooking and discovering new types of food. So that's going to be a big offer as well, I think, when people can come back. So I would say it's coming, be prepared. We're coming to get you. We'll see you in 2021.
Thanks, Simone. Now, during this Zoom call, we had a couple of questions in the Q&A section of this call, and Emily, our colleague in head office over here in The Hague, is monitoring these questions. So let's see if we can have some questions to the Zoom call. I see a very interesting one for you, Nathalie. It's from our colleagues from Brabant. And Tamara, welcome. She's asking, is a journalist willing to do more than one destination in the Netherlands, or is it preferably to, or do we prefer to combine destinations within a country? And maybe it gives us an opportunity to work together with other destinations, other DMOs in the Netherlands, regarding to press trips. What do you think, Nathalie?
Yeah, thanks, Tamara, for this question. I would definitely say a combination of more than one place, because it's such a close destination for the Germans, especially in North Rhine-Westphalia and Lower Saxony, that people or the journalists really like to go to more than just one city or just one area. So what they really like is if they have a theme in mind. For example, it will be a food trip, and then they go to different destinations with very special regional foods, or you know, the national parks. They would love to visit more than just one, just to also compare them a little bit, because everyone is very special. And yeah, so definitely always a combination. It makes it more lively, I would say, and it makes also a better article for the readers.
Yeah, I guess so. And probably this is a question that where the answer is different from which country we were asking it. Do you think that digitalization, so that changes we already did this year, would stay also after, I guess, also after the COVID episode? So Simone, can you say something about it? What do you think about that, that virtual trips, for example, or?
Yeah, I think obviously people really want to get back to normality in real life and seeing people, and as Maren said, seeing art exhibitions, you know, up close and personal rather than from behind a screen. So I think that urge to go will be overwhelming, but then we also have to be realistic in the sense that it will take months for vaccinations to sort of roll out across all of our countries. And in that time, people don't want to lose that information or that content. So I think we will see a mix of hybrid events going on probably well throughout 2021.
Yeah. And I think that is also something. Another question is, we are still dealing with COVID-19, probably the first months or the first half a year of 21. And the question is, what are we planned at NBTC? And I think I can answer this on what Simone is saying. We're now working on our activity plans for 21. We take it per 3 months, actually. So the first 3 months of 21 are completely virtual, completely digital. And from April, we're now planning slowly a bit of more hybrid events, for example, hybrid press trips, and also press gatherings. And hybrid, so we can always say, okay, it's a cut. It will be digital, fully digital, or it will be probably partly physic. So yeah, it's hard to plan for 21 actually, but it will be a combination, and we take it each 3 months. We will have a new view on the activities we plan. I think Paul, your question, Paul Klaanbeek of the museum in Drenthe, the Trans Museum. He's working on a huge exhibition. Probably this is, Paul, a question we can answer you by email one-on-one, because it sounds really interesting, but I think for this meeting, it's probably a bit into the depth. Let's see. If there are no questions anymore, then I will end this Zoom call. It was fun for me. I hope for you too, guys, and especially I hope for the 150 people at the other side of the Zoom call. Thank you very much for joining. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned some new things. I hope it was fun to see all these faces behind the names. Don't hesitate to contact us when you need more information, when you are not sure if you understand everything fully correctly, or you have questions for your own product or your own region or city. And I think we will plan another Zoom call in the first 3 months of the new year, probably. So stay in touch, and feel free to contact us when you want. Stay safe, everybody around the world, and well, we'll stay in the chat for maybe another 5 or 10 minutes to answer questions. And we will also share the link to the white papers on nbtc.nl, so you can read all this information after this session. So for now, goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Au revoir.
Bye.